Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Whiskey Throttle Media. We've got a cool project bike today. This is a 2025 RMZ 450. Interesting story behind this. So this was our media bike that was turned back in, got sold to an auction house, I believe, right?
Right.
And Michael LaPaglia bought it, wanted to have a Suzuki 450 and do a project with it. So it's got some of our things on it when we built it into a project. And Michael LaPaglia, who those of our age will remember the name, rode for WBR Suzuki, was a factory Suzuki support kid all through his amateur career, is now obviously still rides and rides really well, and wanted to build a bike that looked like your amateur bike, right?
That was it. Yeah, the story behind the graphics is 2004. Man, we had a mean team on Team Suzuki of the amateurs. Davey Millsaps, Brock Hepler, Matt Gerke, Eli Tomac, Jason Anderson, Nico Izzy, Ian Treadle, guys like that. And this was the theme we had, kind of like a different take on it with the white seat. Not a whole lot of people did that, but it looked good in the Suzuki in 04, so I brought it back to life. Some fun memories for me, and I think it came out awesome. So
yeah, and I think you and I both have kind of a soft spot in our hearts for Suzukis. We both rode for them as amateurs, and so I always like to see a good-looking Suzuki. And you know, to that end, I also, when I got to ride the HEP race bike 2 years ago, I was blown away. It was so good, and it shouldn't have surprised me. Larry Brooks is I would say one of the best team managers in the business, and as far as getting his riders where they're happy and developing bikes, he's unrivaled. And so you wanted to basically see what you could do to build a factory edition Suzuki.
Yeah, no, that's it. The inspiration came from sitting on the couch watching Supercross in 2024. Kenny, fastest qualifier, heat race winner, battling for podiums, battling for wins. Did he win Phoenix that year with that big jump? But
not him. He won a race last year.
Either way, fast forward to 2025, kind of the same story. Riding the Suzuki 450 that obviously Larry had put a lot of time, a lot of effort into building up for him. He goes out and wins the Daytona Supercross. I mean, tell me, arguably the hardest race on a bike to win. And so the inspiration came from that. I talked to Larry, has been a friend of mine for a long time, and he kind of just listed off all the parts that they run on their bike. And what's cool about it is general public, including myself, can go down to AAO Motorsports, Links to Motorsports, and order 90% of the stuff that's on Kenny's bike, that he's out competing with Jet Lawrence, factory Honda, factory Kawasaki, Eli Tomac on his factory Yamaha, on a bike that 90%, the general public can build. And I just think that is so cool. And huge nod to Larry Brooks for understanding that, like you said, one of the best in the business, and was able to build a bike that kind of gets a lot of flack, really, over the last few years, maybe the last decade, of not changing a whole lot. But here in 2025, Kenny's out there competing with the best. And I just thought that was really cool. And so I reached out to some people and got the parts for the bike, and it's incredible.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is you can find these at a dealer if they're trying to blow some out, or one with low hours that you buy that's a few years old. It's the same motorcycle. So you can start at a really low entry point.
Right.
And obviously the parts of the suspension is going to cost you some money and things, but you can have a really, really fast race weapon for a lot less than you could buy a factory edition bike. Or a little bit less.
Right in that ballpark. So I rode its Gas 2023 factory edition. I think those bikes retailed for like $13,000. And so you're right, you can buy this bike 45, $5,000, $5,500, $6,000, and put $8,000 worth of parts on them, and you're in that ballpark of a factory edition. But you have a tailored bike to you personally, not just what they sell off the showroom floor, right? This suspension done by REP, Mark Johnson, who does all the stuff for Ken Roczens. He's got all the data on the Suzuki. We'll valve the suspension based off that data, but tailored to you, tailored to your weight, your ability, whatever. And you know, a factory edition bike off the showroom floor doesn't come with that. So, you know, it might be relatively the same money, retail for retail at the end of the day, but I think you get way more of a motorcycle, you know, with that cost.
Yeah, the factory editions look great, but ultimately that suspension's just a general setting that isn't going to work great for anybody, you know? And so this, like you said, this is dialed for you. Tell me about some of the other parts. You've got a Pro Circuit exhaust, which comes on the Suzuki if you buy a new one now. And if not, a great system. It's always our go-to.
Right. Obviously, the Pro Circuit exhaust for an RMZ 450 is a go-to. You know, there's a reason Larry runs them. There's a reason, you know, they work so good. It's because they're the best you can buy. So there's a few things on this bike that really made a big difference. First and foremost, the Hinson slipper clutch. And I talked to Larry about it, and he's like, that bike, you know, is almost unrideable without a Hinson slipper clutch. And he's right. I rode this bike stock in its stock form. And the Hinson slipper clutch really lightened up the rear end. It really helped with the engine braking. It had a really tough time transitioning back to throttle, and the Hinson slipper clutch allowed you to be in a rut under engine brake and roll back to the throttle in a smooth transition, where before
kind of jerked you.
Oh, I can remember riding at Pala, and I couldn't even get around the track, and I'm not kidding. It was pretty rough. So the Hinson slipper clutch was a must-have, and you know, from there, I talked to Mark Johnson, and he did the suspension for me from REP. Again, just kind of replicating like what Larry does to Kenny's bikes. And no surprise here, I got it back from him, and it was just a whole nother bike. I mean, whatever he does and the data he has from all those years testing with Kenny on the Suzuki really paid off, you know. And again, I think it's cool. You can take your suspension off, send it to REP, the guy that does the work for Kenny, for Larry, out in Florida testing day in and day out, will do the suspension on your bike with all that data. And I think that's just awesome.
Yeah, that stuff was incredible when I rode with it. So to hear you say it translates to any setting for you, that's awesome. I know Jamie at Twisted Development was a huge part of this as well, because with any modern four-stroke, mapping is more important than anything else as far as how you get the bike to run. Tell me what those guys did for you.
Yeah, so that was kind of the last piece to the puzzle. After doing the Hinson clutch and the PC pipe and the Boysen supercooler, Twisted Development, Jamie's been doing engines on the Suzuki since Davey won Anaheim 1 in 2013, excuse me. So you got to think he's got so much knowledge with this, but the ECU is everything. The ECU really brought this bike to life. It made the rideability of it so much smoother, the power delivery, and it's just fast, right? Like you can come into a corner and help balance the bike out. It's crazy what an ECU and the power delivery will do for the overall handling. Not just power, not just make the bike faster, make it smoother, but it just made the bike handle better. I went up to Mammoth and raced Mammoth with a 30 Pro class, and with that ECU and a high compression piston from Twisted, I ripped a whole shot at Mammoth and held onto it for a lap in the 30 Pro class. So, you know, I think it goes to show that it was plenty quick and, you know, got off the gate well. So,
yeah, and you know, in our days of two-stroke stuff, I guess I'm older than you even, but
I rode a lot of two-strokes.
It was like, you know, you'd cut the head, you'd deck the cylinder, you'd get different pipes cut. There was a lot of different tricks they'd use to make those work, and now it's all in the mapping. Right. I mean, the high compression piston obviously helps too, but you can change the way the bike feels, from engine braking to how it accelerates to how much everything. Yeah. You can just, the whole character of the bike, which translates to handling, like you're saying.
Right.
So that mapping is so important. There's really only a handful of guys that are available to the public that really get that as well. And Jamie is really at the pointy end of the spear on that.
Yeah, no, totally. He is, and you know, again, I think the results always speak for themselves. And you know, he tunes on Kenny's bike, and Kenny's competing for wins. So I think that's pretty neat.
It is pretty rad. Well, Dunlop tires on this thing. These are our wheel set, which were actually TCM hubs, stock hubs, but they coated them and did a really nice job. Just the whole thing is finished off really well. And at the end of the day, you had a blast on it. You love it.
Oh man, no, I love this bike. I've been kind of going through bikes once a year, but this one's sticking around here. I'm going to keep this for at least another year or so and keep putting some hours on it. I'm at 6.8, so I need to start riding more.
And you're okay kicking it? That's the one downside for people.
So I rode this bike in 2005 as an amateur when they came out. And although it still has a Kickstarter on it, instead of kicking it like 20 times, you kick it once and it fires up. So
yeah, they do start a lot easier.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming out and just letting us kind of showcase it.
Of course.
It's pretty cool to see how close you can get to a factory race bike with just some parts you can buy, basically.
That was it, Ping. That was, that was kind of the whole reason behind this bike, is to showcase, the individuals and the companies that build this bike and compete with factory Honda, Suzuki, Yamaha. Things you can't buy for those bikes, you can buy for a Suzuki, and, in a roundabout way, have something close to what races does.
Yeah, well, thanks again. You look great out there, dude.
Thank you.
Still turning some good laps, so I like to see it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think of our RM build. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos, comment what you thought, and share it with your friends.